Hey fellow fishing fanatic. So by now you've heard that a bladed jig or a vibrating jig or the chatterbait is a must-have lure. And honestly, it is. But there are several brands out there that make a vibrating jig or a bladed jig. So which one's the best? Is it the original chatterbait, or have some companies come out with a newer design that's actually better? That's what today's video is all about. We're gonna decide which one is my all-time favorite bladed jig. Let's get started. My name is Wesley Littlefield with anglers.com, and today I tested several of the leading bladed jigs on the market, and I've got to say I was impressed with all of them. I would go fishing with all of them again, and I plan to, because the vibrating jig is one of my favorite lures. Hands down. I've caught a lot of fish on it, and I've caught some big fish on it, and that's why I just love it. It's like the perfect combination of a crankbait, a spinnerbait, and a jig. Three of my favorite lures all wrapped into one. I say yes. So if you guys find this content helpful today, I would appreciate you subscribing down below, and let me know your favorite brand of bladed jig in the comments below. As always, you can find links to all the gear in the description below. And now that we've got all that stuff out of the way, let's find out which bladed jig is the best. So I'm not gonna make you wait any longer. In my opinion, it's the OnceCast Fishing Snagless bladed jig. The reason I love this one so much, number one, you've just barely gotta move it and you start to feel it vibrate. Number two, it's snagless, or very less likely to get snagged on stuff because of the hook design. And number three, because of the hook design also, it's super easy to rig. And I think that's why beginners love it, is because it's really easy to rig and there's no exposed hook like all other chatterbaits. So that's what makes it snagless. You're way less likely to get hung up when there's not an exposed hook. And that's what I really just love about it. The one downside to it is there's not a huge color selection. Now, I tend to keep my colors pretty simplified anyways, so that doesn't matter a whole lot to me. But there's not just a ton of colors to choose from. If you like to have every color under the rainbow, you're gonna have trouble finding that. As far as the price goes, it's right down the middle of the road at like $9, $10, depending on whenever you watch this video. So it's not crazy expensive. Now, for some fishing stuff, that's expensive, I get it. But as far as a bladed jig goes, that's pretty middle of the road. The next bladed jig that I've been dying to get my hands on, and I finally did, is the Berkely Slobberknocker. Now, I got to see this and hold it at ICAST this year, or last year, but I hadn't got to fish with it till recently. So I've just been building up and had huge expectations for it, and they're pretty good. It's got a unique head design, so any little movement, it's gonna vibrate. I really like that about it. It's got Berkley's special Powerbait infused skirts, so I like that about it too. You add just another dimension to make the lure seem and appear real to the fish, which is always beneficial, but it's really expensive. I'd be really hesitant to go throwing it into a lay down, throwing it into brush piles and stuff, just because it's more prone to get snagged because it's still an exposed hook. That also means that you're probably gonna lose more expensive lures. So that's the biggest downside for me, is just how expensive it is, and it's more likely to get snagged, so you're probably gonna be buying more of them. However, because it's Berkley, they've got a huge color selection, so pretty much any color you can dream of, they've got it. So it's like, you know, pros and cons. As always, which one do you prefer more? I really like it. I'll probably be buying more. Just don't tell my wife how expensive they are at almost $13, or right around $13, $14 plus tax, so almost $15 lure. I hope I don't lose that many. And no list would be complete without the original chatterbait, ZMan chatterbait. There's several different versions that ZMan makes, and I just had the straight original one. It's not a terrible price. Once again, it's like $8, $7, $8, maybe $9, but if you go to their newer models or their different versions, sometimes those get as much, if not more, than a Slobberknocker. So just pick your poison, I guess. If you want to stay cheap, they give you that option, but if you want to go big times, they also give you that option. Now, because ZMan was the original chatterbait maker, they have a pretty decent color selection, so you're not going to be wanting too many colors. And like most companies, they offer multiple sizes and weights too. I didn't mention that with the other companies, but they all have multiple sizes or multiple weights anyways. So you can choose which one you think works best. I always tend to go right in the middle of the road. That way, if I bought one of every weight and everything, then I would have a giant tackle box and I couldn't carry it all with me anyway. So I tend to stick to the middle of the road and I can play with it in between there. I really like that ZMan does have multiple versions of the original chatterbait, meaning that they're always looking to improve. So they've got like the Mini Max, which is just like a more compact version, which would probably be really good for like wintertime fishing, or at least early spring, I should say late wintertime fishing or late fall. You know, it's a little bit more compact lure, but it still gives you that chatter, and I think it would be deadly for that. And then they've got like their new and improved versions that always are bigger and better, or they've updated the head style a little bit to make more chatter. Whatever it is, they're always looking to improve, and I really like that about any company, specifically lure companies, so I'm not hesitant to support them. Rounding out my list is the StrikeKing ThunderCricket. Now this was actually, I think it was the most expensive one, which honestly surprised me because it's not that much different from all the other ones, but it costs a little bit more. You know, it comes in a wide variety of colors like most of them do and stuff, but it's still just another bladed jig or another vibrating jig. Now, I will say I was absolutely blown away with just the little bit amount of rod twitch that you need to get it to vibrate. They do have a little bit different designed or different shaped blade, so I guess that differentiates them, but I don't see how it also justifies more cost. But they didn't ask me how much it should cost, so we'll stay out of that. But I really liked the way it felt while fishing it and everything. Like I said, it didn't take much to get it to vibrate, which I think is probably the most important, because I like casting it out, letting it set for a minute, and just barely twitching a little bit and then letting it set again. And so if I have to twitch it and pull it, jerk it too much and move it away from that bass, if I'm trying to, if I know that there's a bass following it and I'm trying just to get that bite and all it takes is just a little bit of movement, I can do a little bit of movement instead of too much movement trying to get that blade to click. Now, honestly, out of all these, I don't think you can go wrong buying any of them. They're all great lures. Now, granted, I'm kind of particular to a little bit less expensive, and it's snagless, and so you're less likely to get hung up. So that's why the OnceCast fishing tackle is my favorite bladed jig, period. But the Berkely Slobberknocker, it's a great lure. I really like it. I look forward to fishing with it more and really using it a lot. I plan on buying more, to be honest. The ZMan Chatterbait, the original Chatterbait, I mean, what can I say? It's the original, and they're always looking to improve it. I don't have any complaints with it, that as far as like, don't buy it. I really think it's worth the money. And the StrikeKing ThunderCricket, I really think, you could justify spending $15 on it because just the little movement it takes to really twitch it, and their color selection. Plus, I mean, StrikeKing's a well-known brand, and they seem to at least always done their customers right, as far as I can tell. So don't forget that all these products can be found in the description below. You can use those links to purchase them. It helps us out. We get a small commission from that, but it costs you absolutely no extra at all. And now that you know which one is your favorite, which one is my favorite really, then it's time to learn how to rig one. Now, this might seem a little trickier, or it might sound simple, but it's actually a little trickier than you think. So there's a video down below me that's absolutely worth checking out, and I'll see you there. But until then, remember that education is important, but fishing is essential.